Hey everybody, welcome back to another week at the Beyond the Trailer Park. And first of all, apologies that we missed everyone last week. Unfortunately, nature decided to fuck our shit up. And God was pissed because Rachel wanted to come on and talk about sex. So we're going to have to defer that because she got her power knocked out for the majority of the evening. It didn't come back on until well past midnight, so apologies for that, but Rachel will be on in 2 weeks' time, so don't
I certainly hope so.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I couldn't miss that. That sounds amazing.
We're going to talk about evolutionary sexuality, so, you know, Professor, you're more than welcome to pop in, too, if you feel like it, because that's going to be a lot of fun. So, without much ado, I'll come back to the ladies in a minute, but this week, of course, we are joined by the esteemed Professor Stephen. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Excellent, excellent.
Good.
And, of course, over in Pennsylvania, we have Beth. Good evening.
Howdy, howdy.
She's kind of in the dark, but, you know.
Yeah, everything's above my head.
Well, see, God still must be pissed because her main light blew out and she hasn't had time to fix it yet. But, you know, shit happens. We can still kind of see you.
Yeah. I could have put on a brighter shirt, but that would have required effort on my part.
No.
I got a broad enough shirt for everyone, so.
Yes.
I think so. He's styling in Hawaiian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, considering I didn't get up till 7 p.m., I was like, no.
Damn, I was getting off for work.
I got up at 4:30.
Yeah, but I don't go to bed till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think I went to bed around 9 this morning, so, you know.
Yeah, I think I got a message from you saying, I think I need to go to bed now.
Yeah.
See, I didn't go to bed till after, the second time, the real time. I take a nap after work, and then I woke up hungry. I'm opening a fishing season this weekend, so we got hammered. And, yeah, I definitely cannot do what I used to be able to do. I was, like, beat. I was so hungry I had a bowl of cereal and went to bed. But I woke up at, like, 3, totally famished.
At one point, we both said, oh, it's time to go get some sleep. Good night. And, like, 45 minutes later, she's like, I thought you were going to bed. And, like, I thought you were going to bed.
45 minutes later, try it was closer to 3 hours.
What? Damn.
So what you're telling me,
when you were still online,
is I'm online now on a podcast with a bunch of vampires. Is that what
we're actually.
Just
Yeah.
two. Okay.
Ashley's still a day walker, but, you know, I'm coming to see her real soon. We might be able to fix that.
I used to be a vampire, but I got a first shift job, so.
Yeah, see, I've always worked second or third shift my entire life.
Right.
So.
That's what I worked my last job, but this one's first shift, so I got to be up bright and early.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hate it.
I couldn't do it. Well, now I don't think I could because I can't even get my sleep straightened out to where I like it, to my normal hours. I take a nap after work and then I'm up at 3 in the morning. It's like, can't I just go to bed at 3 in the morning instead of taking a nap? I could do without the naps. But, oh well.
Oh, well. So, Miss Ashley, how you been we missed you the last couple of weeks.
I've had a very, very busy last month. I feel like I've been going.
Uh-huh.
We got the wedding thing going on. We're actually going to Jacksonville this coming up weekend to hang out with Chris and Corinne and do some more wedding stuff down there. I actually did the first person that I actually ever came out to in my part of the family was my brother, and I came out to him last weekend. You know, told him because he made the comment about his. I think I remember me telling y'all the story about how his ex-wife, he like bullied his ex-wife into giving him custody of his child.
Yes.
Okay, so they like took pictures of marijuana and took pictures of something else. I don't know, but they just took pictures that if she would have actually had a lawyer,
yeah,
could have had that shit thrown out of court.
Right.
But they said, but they went and showed her the pictures and said it'd be in your best interest to sign over custody. So she did.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, and he thanked God for all that. So I was like, it's nice to know that God would rip a child from a mother. Yeah. So, well, anyways, he was talking about how, he was talking about his ex-wife this past weekend and saying that in the custody agreement or something, she's supposed to notify him 30 days before she moves somewhere and vice versa. Well, she got kicked out of her house and is now living with her boyfriend's parents and her boyfriend, or her boyfriend's black.
Oh.
And, well, he had made the comment that she's over there living with that, and he used the N-word.
Of course he did.
And her Jehovah Witness parents. And so I looked at him and I said, you do know what I do when I'm, not at work, right? And he's like, no. I'm not against religion or nothing. I'm a Baptist. Okay. You do know. First, and then I looked at him and I went, dude, when was the last time you set foot in a church? I said, I think you were still in diapers. But he's a Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Well, that's the club. If you're part of the Southern
Twice a year,
Club,
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and I'm like, one of the things that I do is a radio show, and I'm constantly fighting for equality. And just because she's living over there with his parents, and because he's black, so you want to have something against her because of this? Let's talk about the fact that you're not even supporting yourself, that you go to dad for every freaking thing. So then I looked at him and I was like, you do know there is no God, right? He's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm an atheist. He's like, well, I'm a Baptist. And I'm like, okay, you apparently don't know what atheism is, do you? Well, what do they call it? And I'm literally doing a face palm here. And I'm like, okay, he clearly, and I had to think about it. I was like, he was raised with, like I was. So he doesn't even know what the word atheism is.
I'm surprised he didn't think you were a devil worshiper or something.
Well,
That's
yeah.
usually what it is.
Yeah. And I said, well, I don't believe there is a God. And he says, and I looked at him and I said, remember when you slit your wrist because you were going to commit suicide? And he said, well, yeah. I said, how did you think you survived that? Because God was guiding me. I said, oh, God was guiding the razor blade. That's
Yeah.
nice to know. He was like, no, it was because of God is the reason why I survived. I said, no, it was because of the person that called 911. And then when the doctors and the ambulance got there, they're the ones who saved you.
Right.
Yep.
And I said, and think about this. All the stuff that you have overcome in your life, and you're wanting to give credit to a God. Why? I said, why do you have such a hard time taking credit for it yourself?
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? To make you feel worthless, so you have to continue to go to the church in order to have any kind of self-worth at all.
Right, but he hasn't been in. I mean, it just blows. First off, it pissed me off because he used the N-word. Fuck you, motherfucker. I don't give a shit who you are. You keep that shit away from me. That's dead. It's gone. It's there's no sense in using it. These, they're human just like we are. And then I told him, I said, you know what? I said, you do know that I'm like part of 2 radio shows, right? He's like, what do you mean radio shows? And I said, yeah. I said, I do one called Beyond the Trailer Park, and I also do one called No Religion Required. And he's like, well, what do y'all do? Well, we talk about stuff and we educate people, and sometimes we actually have people like you on. And we interview you. And he's like, so you don't think there's a God out there? And I was like, nope, really don't. He said, well, where do you think all the trees and all that came from? And I went, here, go watch a movie. It's called My Inner Fish.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, watch it.
My God.
Pills.
And I told him, I said, I would much rather give credit to myself. I know that sounds selfish, but I would much rather give credit to myself for the accomplishments in my life, rather than giving it to some fucktard that supposedly sits up on a fucking cloud judging us for every little fucking thing we do.
And the real sad part of it is not only do they give him this credit, not only do they think he's the most important thing in the world they have to center their lives around, but he doesn't even exist. So he's literally nothing at all but a story.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be right back. Let me go. We just got a thing in the chat room. Apparently, the light from the oven is causing a glare. Hold on.
Sorry, tripping.
Bobby's getting it.
Okay.
Bobby, I got it.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying, like last Thanksgiving when someone said to me after having my stroke in July, they said, "Well, you have a lot to be thankful for." And I'm thinking, I can't put my fucking pants on. I mean, I know I use that all the time, but that's what it comes back to. Or when I quit drinking and when I quit doing drugs, it was like, I didn't go to AA that relies on a, quote, higher power because he didn't do jack shit, or she. I mean, it was my effort. It was, what I did to overcome the problems that I had and why I was relying on narcotics to get through the day, or when I was drinking, relying on my fifth of not Jack Daniels, of SoCo to get through the day. My effort is what beat that. Do I still have issues? Yeah, I know to avoid it.
Right.
But I still occasionally, I'll have a wine cooler. You guys have seen me drink some on here. I'm afraid to now because I don't need to scramble my brains anymore. But yeah, they take away personal responsibility, and it's like, if something good happens, like you find your car keys, it's, God did it.
God.
But
my God.
The greatest sin. The greatest sin in the Christian church is to be self-reliant.
Yes.
They call that pride.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'd much rather walk around with pride in my heart and in my mind, knowing that I accomplished something by myself or with my friends.
Well, see, it's a way to keep you down. It's a way to keep you down and keep them under their thumb. And then since you're nothing, you're nobody. Nothing you do is ever right, and the only thing that's right is what God does. And then that guy in the pulpit claims to speak for God, that he can tell you how to live your life and be the boss of you instead of you being the boss of yourself.
But go down the street, you're going to hear a completely different story.
Yeah.
The other word
they
for
can't even get their story straight.
The other word for pride is confidence, and a confident person doesn't need no fucking Jesus or Sky Daddy or none of that shit.
Right.
You know why the religious are scared of the religious are scared of confident people.
Yes, absolutely.
They are. They want to break their confidence.
Education.
Right. And there is a bad kind of pride. The bad kind of pride is when you think you're better than other people.
Because
that's the bad kind.
Because you think the invisible sky fairy likes you more than everybody else.
Yeah, isn't it ironic? They actually do suffer from the worst kind of pride. The worst definition is the one that they suffer from.
Exactly.
Well, look at it at what happens after a natural disaster, and I'm going to use the one I think with CNN, if I remember correctly, where the guy goes, "Oh, you're lucky to be alive. Do you thank God?" And she's like, "Well, I'm an atheist."
Right.
And it's like, so after an accident or a tragedy or a natural disaster, yeah, you survived, but those 500 people down the street didn't. So you're special.
Oh, yeah. What they don't understand is that improbable things happen all the time. You don't have to have a magic sky wizard to make improbable things happen. Improbable things happen constantly. And to say something to someone who's had a stroke that survived it, that don't you feel blessed? Weren't you blessed by God because it wasn't any? It's kind of like saying, aren't you thankful he didn't hurt you worse? Aren't you thankful
I just told him, well, he's got lousy fucking aim.
Yeah.
It blew me away because and one of the things I've been focusing on more, and this ties into why we have you on the show too, is that it's like the amount of woo that people sent me. Like, I had started. I mean, I know the bare minimum about strokes.
Right.
Because they didn't rule it one, because they basically misdiagnosed it, because I did not present like a normal person. Not that I'm normal, but basically the hospital fucked up, in my opinion.
Right.
Plus, I went 4 days after the fact, so nothing would have shown anyways, other than I had. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you must have had a stroke at one point." And I'm like, "Yeah, like 4 days ago." But it's like the woo that's out there, the dumbing down of our society, as far as like people accept science, but they don't accept scientists. It's like one of the first things that came across my feed when I started looking up strokes, because Facebook uses an algorithm, was these 4 signs of stress will help reduce stroke or something. I'm thinking, are you freaking serious? It has nothing to do with your muscles.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with your stress level. I blew a clot.
Right. Well,
You
there are tons of people out there that just make shit up and then speak with authority like they know what they're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, and I kind of hit on that today in my segment. Because I was, of course, doing anti-vax, which is one of my, for some reason, is one of my things. I don't know how I even ended up doing it, but it's become kind of one of my little pet projects.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much stuff out there that, and even the stuff that's legitimate, when you look at, like, one of the things I used was the Cutter incident, which happened in 1950 with the polio's vaccine, and the process got screwed up, and some people did get polio because of it. But
right.
If you look at it from a scientific standpoint, to use that term, you know, what actually happened and the whole situation, the politics and the fear. I mean, I remember in the 70s, I mean, the vaccine had already been out for 15, 16 years. Even then, when I went to school, it was still a big deal. Get your polio vaccine, you know? It was like that fear. I mean, even then, even 15 years after it had already been reduced, and we were still a good 10 years from it being pretty much eliminated. I mean, it's not eradicated like smallpox, but that fear was still there. And I mean, I remember it, and it's just like, when you look at it from that standpoint, it's like you can understand why the Cutter incident happened, and I'll get more into that on the segment, but it's like, but you have a woman who I highlighted in the segment who just like makes shit up.
Yeah. They're all over the place. So Mally is complaining about me not wearing a bow tie. Well, it just didn't work. It didn't work with it. I tried one on. It didn't work with the shirt. It just the collar wouldn't take it. So it's a non-bow tie day. But I am wearing a vest, so you know that's fine.
the most stylish dude in podcasting. Okay, so you know.
And I got my button on, and I got my handkerchief in my pocket, so I'm doing all right. I don't have the bow tie though.
Yeah, he said it just feels off. He can't look at him without his bow tie. He's in casual Friday gear on a Monday.
On a Monday. This is my work clothes. I wear Hawaiian shirts to work.
Suck it up, Melee. Jeez.
Yeah. I normally wear an ascot anyway, and the bow tie is a little more rare. But talking about anti-vaxxers, it's interesting that this came up, because that's what I've been reading about today. Something to talk about on the show. Everyone knows who Kent Hovind is, right?
The segment I featured.
Yeah. Well, he's went fully anti-vax.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. This was pointed out to me by a friend of the show, actually by Andrew, who's on the show from time to time. By the way, the show hasn't been on for about 6 months now, but we're coming back. I promise, we're coming back. But yeah, I watched his video. He's got a video called, it's a multiple video. It's a little sermon by him, although he doesn't claim to be a preacher, but whatever. It's a sermon called Depopulation Through Vaccines and Chemtrails.
Yeah. Does he get into Bill Gates in that one? I haven't listened to that one yet.
I don't know. I've only got about halfway through the second part, and because I was picking it apart, I was pausing it and going find the references. He's
Yeah,
completely.
their favorite as far as the eugenics go is recently a statement that Bill Gates made a couple years ago, I think, where he talks about depopulation, and actually what he's talking about is that if you increase your vaccination rate, you get vaccination rate to 100%, herd immunity kicks in, and and therefore you will have less children born. Well, they've twisted it to take that he wants to depopulate by using vaccines.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what he was talking about. He
Yeah,
quoted a bunch of movers and shakers who
yeah,
mentioned the fact that we're sort of overpopulating the Earth,
up to
and
7.9 billion
yeah, and
and growing.
took them out of context and is claiming that vaccines contain things that will keep you from being able to have kids or something like that.
Yeah. Well, in Nigeria, one of the tropes the Catholic Church primarily is using is that the vaccines are actually sterilization mechanisms.
Yeah, they're not working. They're not working.
Yeah, well, they don't. Well, they don't work. And I discovered today, I was doing some background for part 2, is that trope actually goes back to the 1850s when Jenner did the smallpox vaccination. And that was actually when this doesn't work. And I'll probably get into it, but I don't know how much. But basically, I mean, that trope has been around since day one. It's not even original. I mean, and that's what kills me, like with Hovind. And for those that don't know, and I do touch on it in one of the links when I do the show notes, is that bringing up Hovind's anti-vax stance, that goes hand in hand with his sovereign citizen bullshit.
Yeah.
And if you go back a couple years ago, actually I think it was just this year, or in the past year, he was touting B17, which we know as Laetrile or amygdalin. And B17 is basically, it's not a vitamin, but it's basically a form of cyanide, and I'm probably not using very scientific terms here, so correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Stephen.
It's correct. It contains cyano groups that can pop off of it and be cyanide in your system. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it's been banned by the FDA.
Yeah.
But of course, he had like a little mole when he first got out of prison. He had a little mole or growth on his face that he was having tested for cancer. But what really blows my mind is he's going to a doctor to have a growth tested to see if it is scientifically a cancer. And he's saying that the FDA ban on B17 is bullshit.
Yeah, well, he's the worst. He just cherry picks. Like, this science over here is real, but this science over here isn't.
Yeah.
It's all just based on his, sounds good to me, don't like it, whatever. I mean, it doesn't agree with the scriptures. That's another thing about about his anti-vax crap. He said, nowhere in the scriptures does it say that you should be injecting poison into people to keep them from catching a disease. Well, no shit. The scriptures don't speak of anything medicinal. I mean, you could cure leprosy by dipping a bird in the blood of another bird and shaking it over someone.
I'm pretty sure that's against one of the 20 million commandments I've read about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the whole, breed your cow next to the sticks in the pond to get straight shit.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, there's some unclean shit going on in there.
Yeah, definitely. And what's so funny?
Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, for me personally, what's interesting about Ken Hovind is I first became aware of him when I was a Christian, when I was a fundamentalist. I was given a set of videotapes with his talks, and I liked them. I thought he had something. I thought, this guy's really telling it like it is, And then watching him again as a more educated individual. This was in high school. I'm like, man, he's a sarcastic asshole who doesn't know what he's talking about. But more than that, he lies. Like there are 3 big creationists out there: him and Ken Ham and Banana Man.
Ray Comfort.
He's the one that most bold-faced basically will just lie. Like he'll put a textbook reference up on screen claiming it says one thing when it really says another. And in fact, if you pause the video and read the entire paragraph, you'll see that he's lying about what the paragraph said right there in his own video.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
what
yeah.
makes him so dangerous, like, I've had the joy of actually seeing him in person back when I was in college. I bought into his bullshit hook, line, and sinker when, like you, I was a believer. And, you know, Ham and Hovind in the day for me were, you know, basically God. I mean, they spoke for God, but it didn't last long when, like, he was taking stuff so out of context, but he got into the whole sovereign citizen bullshit, and he really, I don't think he's doing it as a dodge. I think he really believes this stuff. I mean, his mind has just gone so far off the deep end. And a friend of the show, Nicole Samard, who does Atheism TV, he's been, in fact, he's doing an experiment now. I don't want to publicly say what it is, and just watching the responses of some of the followers is hysterical. The way they justify what is happening is, it's just, it's beyond just like, are you guys serious?
Right.
It's like, I mean, he's patriarchal. He's, you know, I mean, for those that don't know, his wife did file for divorce.
I heard that. Yeah.
And supposedly, I haven't independently confirmed the reports, but supposedly, and I do trust my sources, Eric Hovind who has his own ministry, he took over his dad's and kind of merged it into his Creation Today ministry.
Yeah.
When Kent was in jail, and he's given his dad 15 days to vacate the premises. He's been evicted from the home, I guess. And it's just, now there's some infighting there, and it's like, you know, a friend of the show, Robert Beatty, and I were joking for like the past year that Joe's going to divorce him, and lo and behold, she finally got the balls and did it.
Does it make me a terrible person that I kind of snicker a little bit when I hear these things?
No.
Oh, I love it.
I mean,
I'm going to hell with you, Stephen.
We're all going to be there. But, you know, when your husband basically gets you sent to jail and skates off scot-free, yeah, that's not cool.
Well, you know, when it comes to Eric...
Go ahead.
I was about to say, Eric is a lot like Ray Comfort, and then he's trying to be sort of ecumenical. He's trying to appeal to Christianity as a whole, while his dad is this fundamentalist wackadoo. I think probably Baptists mostly, you know, very fundamentalist, very like King James only kind of deal. And, you know, the other creationists are trying to be more broad with their appeal because there's more money in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm guessing Kent really does sort of believe what he's saying, but how do you believe it and also lie like that? I mean, there's got to be some sort of cognitive dissonance there.
Lying Jesus.
I don't think he has any at all. I really think that he is so honestly convinced by his standpoint, and he's been spouting it for so long. And within the sovereign citizen movement, their mindset is basically they pump you up. You know, it's like he lost, you know, Dino Land. And he basically, so he's trying to rebuild it with this whole sovereign citizen bullshit meshed in with the whole, you know, creation. And what's funny is he's fighting with, shit. I can't remember his name, but he's fighting with someone over the whole flat earth bullshit.
Right, yeah.
And the thing is with flat earthism, there's two trains of thought. There is those that are based biblically. But there's also a, for lack of better word, secular version of flat earthism. He's not contending with them, but he's contending with the biblical view that it's a flat earth.
Right.
It's just so funny to see all this infighting, because he's literally fighting with his son now over Creationist Day, which is more like AIG in a sense that, like you said, they're trying to be evangelistic in their viewpoints, trying to save the masses, where I can't put a word to what Kent's trying to do because he makes no sense.
Well, Kent went full on conspiracy theory crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
back whenever I was a fundamentalist Christian and I was listening to his videos, if I had heard him talk about freaking chemtrails and vaccines to sterilize people, I would have stopped listening to him back then.
Yeah.
As a Christian, I would have been like, no, this guy's wackadoo. I'm done with him.
Yeah.
But what makes it sad is, we'll just use chemtrails for an example, is that now belief in chemtrails is almost becoming a wackadoo Christian trope.
Right.
I mean, you're not a Christian if you don't believe that, they're chemtrailing. I mean, in some people. I mean, I'm trying not to lump everybody all together, but it's just like, yeah, some of the stuff is just nuts.
Well, what I've noticed is that if you believe one crazy thing with no evidence, then you'll believe a lot of crazy things with no evidence.
Oh.
So
remember I was telling you a friend of mine was doing an experiment. He had gone into a group that supports Kent Hovind, and he just PM'd me. I was kicked out around 9:55 p.m. I was very respectful, and everybody was agreeing with me, but one of the bosses of the place, decided that I was passing judgment on people's parenting and repeating gossip, so he kicked me out.
Wow.
Because I had PM'd away, it came up on my notifications that he had posted in this group. I watch through, I lurk, I don't comment, because I'm doing it for one, to keep tabs on what they're saying about somebody else I know, because he's kicked out of the group too. And two, just kind of keeping tabs on the nut jobs. And I PM'd him and I said, you do realize you're probably not going to last very long in that group? He goes, oh, this is just an experiment. So it didn't last very long.
Yeah. What I don't get about all of these stupid conspiracies is they never seem to have a clear idea of what the end game is supposed to be. So when they're saying, well, chemtrails and vaccines are supposed to sterilize people, okay, so why would some nefarious group want to sterilize people?
Because the devil wants to sterilize people, because God said, be fruitful and multiply. So God wants to populate the earth. The more is better. Have more kids, more population is better. 17 quiverful of fucking brats. And the devil is anti-birth. So he wants to stop people having kids.
But that doesn't make sense, because more people that are born is more opportunities to steal souls.
True, and since the majority of people are going to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite see. I don't see why the devil gives a shit about the population.
I know.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's why I decided that cats are better, and because, Satan said, don't have children. No. God. I mean, and some of the other stupid things that people come up with, again, I'm like, what would be the purpose of that?
I don't quite understand. I don't understand why the devil will want to reduce the population of the earth.
Well, you'd think he would actually want it to increase because, he's evil and he likes suffering and pain and death. And if we have more people than what we can, quote, feed, since they're against GMOs as well, you'd think that overpopulation would be more his end game.
Right. Except a couple points there. You're right. Kent Hovind also goes off on GMOs in his...
Yeah, that's a whole nother...
Right. Well, of course he does. I mean, it's just duh. Of course he's going to do that. And then second of all, the one who seems to be into suffering doesn't seem to be the devil. The book I read, it's the God character that really likes the suffering.
Mm-hmm. Although Chris Sampson over here, and hi Chris, he says that it's obvious that hell must be getting full, and that's why Satan's trying to...
No more, please. There's no more room down here. Stop having kids. Listen, my agents, I want you to put contraceptive drugs in all the vaccines and chemtrails, because I'm freaking tired of all these people. That makes perfect sense. The devil's not really being evil; he's just worn out.
Yeah, he's running out of space.
No, he just wants to make sure that he's going to be able to fill the space below. That's all.
Right.
Just a side note with my friend's little experiment. He goes, I wanted to see how stupid they were about refusing to face facts, and now I know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these people just are nuts. I mean, the blatant, almost demigod worship of Hovind in this group is really bizarre, because it's like, he can do no wrong. He's like, basically God's gift to their green earth, and it's like, my God, are you people that blind?
And all he does nothing constructive. Even if he was right, all he does is sit there and just make smart-ass jokes and call people stupid and idiots, especially scientists, and try to point out where they got things wrong.
Yeah.
That's a useless thing to do.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I have a copy of his quote, doctoral thesis.
Yeah.
I could write better than that in 7th grade. I'm sorry. That's scary.
Should have been written in crayon. He's obviously an egotist.
Yeah.
Way more than the other creationists, because he claims to be an expert who knows more than the people who actually are experts in the field. He's like, I taught biology for 20 years. I understand the germ theory of disease, and I don't buy this whole vaccine thing. It just doesn't work. I'm like, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
You taught biology to your kids.
Yeah, to his own kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what kills me is, like, most people know I'm pretty much a nerd. And I mean, I know my limits, so I rely on people smarter. And just an FYI, I've used you as just to double check my quote science. Right. I know it all.
Oh yeah. Well, here's the thing. Even good scientists can be wrong, especially outside of their field.
Yeah.
And since he's never done a day of science in his life, and he has no field. His opinion.
When they start listing off, oh, look at all of these, Bible-believing Christian scientists who don't believe in evolution, and it's like, oh, well, this guy's a dentist, and this guy's, there's like, I found a list, months ago. I was debating somebody, and I went and found this list, and I bet you a third to half of them were fucking dentists. And then they were like environmental scientists, or some of them were like engineers, but like, different types of engineers that would have no basis in evolution or anything biological.
A lot of them are electrical engineers and things like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, well, yes, that's science, but that's not biology.
Well, then that's the thing. They rely on, I'll use Bill Nye as an example. Mm-hmm. Last year he was, I won't say anti-GMO, but he had questions concerning GMOs. He wasn't for them.
Right.
He went to Monsanto and learned they learned him some GMOs, and he's changed his stance. There's a scientist going to other scientists to learn what he does not know, have it explained to him in language that he would understand, and weighing the evidence and coming out on the side of science. And it's like, science is right whether you believe it or not, to borrow Neil deGrasse Tyson's saying.
Right. Well, what we have with Bill Nye is someone who's willing to humble himself enough to go in and ask someone to inform him and admit that he's ignorant on a subject, as opposed to Ken Hovind, who, he's just one step away from a god anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, what kills me is, like, when I first started looking into the whole GMO / controversy, I knew very little about GMOs. I know probably the bare minimum to get myself into trouble. But I know enough that I understand the technology behind it, or what's behind it, to realize that this is a good thing. My one thing that I focus on is the whole golden rice issue, especially in India.
Right.
that's what piqued my interest. Is like, why are there people against something that is going to save eyesight
Mm-hmm.
so bad? I mean, it's like, oh, they can eat something else. Well, do you realize that rice is like 98% of their diet?
Yeah.
That number probably isn't right, but it's like, they grow rice because it's something they can grow in that climate. It's just, so I started looking into it more, and I don't have the understanding of GMOs that Bill Nye does, but I know what people I can go to get that understanding.
Right, right. Well, the fact of the matter is that GMOs, well, you've probably heard this before, GMOs have been studied more than any other foods. And they're safe they're just the ones that are on the market are just completely safe. And in fact, non-GMO foods who haven't been studied could be dangerous. They probably aren't either. But just because something is natural, of course, no food we eat is actually the way it was in nature before we got a hold of it. We've bred them to make genetically modified foods the old-fashioned way.
My favorite was the Banana Man himself.
Yes, exactly. A good example. Yeah.
Perfectly designed for me to grab and point at I'm like, yeah, because we fucking designed it. You
Exactly. And frankly, for me and GMOs, the idea that they're going to be bad for your health is just nonsense.
Well, people, you hit on 2 points. One, well, go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say there's a meme that I've seen around that I absolutely love, and it's this, like, starving African child, and there's, like, a anti-GMO person, like, snatching the rice away, saying, oh, no, this will give you cancer in 20 years, and, like, the child is, like, obviously going to keel over dead any second. It's like, I think I'll take the 20 years, thanks.
Right, exactly.
What does GMO stand for?
Genetically modified organism.
And it's a misnomer.
Okay.
A lot of what I read, a lot of scientists, real scientists, don't even like the term, but that's what we've come to know. Anything we eat, like Stephen was saying, like corn. If you look at corn 10,000 years ago, it's about the size of my pinky.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, corn has been genetically modified through various techniques. I'll say, what's the word I'm looking for, Steve? Hybridization?
Yeah, and interbreeding. Basically, the way that humans have genetically modified. Yeah, the way humans have genetically modified things since prehistory is they find strains that have properties they like and they breed them, right?
Right.
We've done it with dogs. You have a litter of puppies and one of them's really big. You find another puppy that's really big. You breed them together and make really big dogs, right? They do the same thing. The same thing with tomatoes and with corn and with all these other things. In fact, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and kale were all originally the same plant. And they were all bred for different properties and became separate species. By the way, that's a form of evolution with artificial selection instead of natural selection. But anyway.
We could go around on that one.
Yeah. So what happens is sometimes there's mutants. As you know, there's this thing called mutation that happens. It's also part of the theory of evolution. And spontaneous mutations occur because of genes not being encoded correctly, or perhaps a bit of radiation hitting a plant or whatever. And sometimes you get a mutant, like for instance in tobacco, the white barley, what's it called? The kind of tobacco. The kind of tobacco they grow around here. What's it called? I've forgotten. Anyway, the tobacco they make cigarettes out of is a really mild form of tobacco. Well, it was a mutant. It was a mutant that grew up in this farm, and it was different. White burley, that's what it's called, burley tobacco. White burley. And when they smoked it, they said it was really mellow, not nearly as harsh as the other tobacco. So they got those plants and they started breeding them together and making sure to cultivate that kind, right? And that was a mutation. So for years, people were doing this, waiting for things to mutate naturally and just breeding them together and making whole new plants out of mutants.
Yeah.
So back in the early 20th century, people got smart about that and said, hey, let's tell you what let's do. Let's take some plants and we'll subject them to actual nuclear radiation. Yep. So we'll cause the mutation rates to go up, and then we'll harvest the ones that we like that have mutated in a way that we like, and we'll breed those. That's what they used to do. Now, with the GMOs that they're doing now, they're actually taking genes that they want out of like one plant and putting them in another. So instead of just this random chance and hoping there's a good mutation that isn't also accompanied by a bad one, because you don't know, we know exactly what we're mutating. We know exactly what we're changing in the DNA, so there won't be any mistakes. So the way we're doing it now is much safer than the way we used to do it. And one example would be this. Classic breeding of mutants, which is what we've always done, they try to do that to make a potato that would make really nice, crisp potato chips. So they found these potatoes, these various mutants that fry up real nice, crisp, and crunchy for potato chips. They started breeding them together to try to make a super potato chip potato. And sure enough, they got it. I forgot what it's called, but it's this great super potato chip potato. And they sliced it up, and they fried it up, and everyone in the lab ate it and said, this is the best friggin' potato chip I've ever had. And the next day, they were all shitting and puking everywhere. It made them sick as dogs. Because, you know, that poison that potatoes get when they're green and you pick them too soon?
Yep.
The gene had mutated along with the genes that made it nice, crisp, and delicious, had mutated that meant that it didn't get rid of that poison when it matured. So it was like eating green potatoes. Like really, really, really green potatoes.
Yikes.
So they accidentally bred all natural poisonous potatoes. Now, if they could have isolated the genes for crispy delicious and did genetic engineering, just inserted those, which is what the modern GMOs would do, then you could have a nice crispy potato chip without the poison. So,
because I'm a bit of a potato chip connoisseur, and that sounds really good, except for the barfy diarrhea part.
Yeah, not good. Poisoning yourself with potatoes not good.
So,
well, it's like
Maybe
a lot of people don't. Oh, go ahead, Deb or Ash.
Ashley's got a question.
Same height, almost same color hair. I understand.
Yeah, I got you, girl.
No, it's about the same height. That's so she wears flip flops. So, is GMOs a good thing or a bad thing? Because what you're telling me is that it's not really a bad thing. It's just kind of it's helping us,
make better food. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I mean, like any technology, there's a possibility of using it to nefarious ends. And some companies, the one concern I have with GMOs that I think is an actual concern is, say we make all GMO tomatoes. We find out we have a strain that's resistant to pests.
Right.
It's really nice, and we said we're going to have strain H GMO tomatoes, and everyone starts growing strain H GMO tomatoes, and then a bug evolves to eat them and destroy them, and suddenly all the tomatoes are wiped out because we don't have any other strains.
Right.
That's the only thing that I worry about. So we have to keep an archive of the seeds from the other strains of tomatoes, maybe the older heirloom kind, that kind of thing. So
I think that for those interested, that gets into the whole issue of monoculture, which is not an issue just with GMOs. It's
right,
an issue
it is not.
Yeah, it's when you grow just one item in one field over and over.
Exactly.
And that really has nothing to do with GMOs per se, but it has to do with agriculture. And
right.
there is a question in chat for you as well.
Yeah.
Oh, for me?
Yeah. From Chris.
Okay.
He says, Stephen, have you heard about the efforts to produce plantain and cassava varieties that don't concentrate heavy metals from the soil?
No, I have not. That sounds awesome. So we're going to make our food less poisonous by genetically modifying them. I have heard about something about cassavas recently, but I really haven't looked into it. But that sounds like a really good use of it. Yes. So as you were saying, though, yes, you could easily have the same thing happen with just a crop of, like if we bred a potato, like if for instance, the potato chip potato had worked and it hadn't been poisonous, and then everyone switches over to that potato and grows nothing but that, even though that wasn't a GMO, although it was. This is why the word doesn't work right. It's not a GMO as defined by the people who use the word, because it wasn't genetically modified in a lab. It still would have been a tragedy, if all the potatoes were wiped out because that one strain was the only one that we were growing. So yeah, that's not really a problem with GMOs. That's just a problem with modern agriculture that needs to be addressed.
Well, look at the potato famine in Ireland.
Right, exactly. That's all they were growing, right?
Yeah, they had and I'm going on memory here. Wasn't it they basically did monoculture and all the crops were wiped out?
Right, exactly.
And that happens not only in quote organic, and I don't believe in organic. I'm sorry, grow it in the earth. It ain't organic.
Yeah.
It's like, hello,
Yeah, organic pesticides are nasty, by the way. I just want to put that.
Yes, they cannot be synthetic, but BT corn, the BT part is used in organic farming. Look into organic farming, and you'd be surprised. It's a marketing term, and that's all it is. And they admit it even on their own web pages. I was reading some stuff today about the whole organic fad, and I kind of fell for it when I was in my vegan days. Right. And I was vegan because I don't like meat. I never have.
Right. I have friends though who really buy into the idea that it's helping the planet. That's why they're
no, it's
vegan.
not.
Yeah, it's not. You have to plant a whole lot more. But there's a couple people that say that they are. So you end up cherry picking. Like all the conspiracy theorists do, they cherry pick the one or two scientists that says that it is, and then ignores the vast majority that say that it
and
isn't.
I love how the reason that there's only one or two isn't because those guys are probably wrong. It's because everyone else has to suppress them.
Yeah. Well, there's and I've used this example before, a really good meme that a lot of your conspiracy nuts like to use, where you have the graph, normal upward slope showing, correlation, and then you have one outlier. And that's the study they focus on because it says all the other ones are wrong.
Right, the one from 1987 that was done in Korea by one person.
Yeah, and then you find out that the sample size is 2.
Right.
And that's what to tie it into our whole anti-woo. Right. Look at Wakefield's study from 1998. His sample size was 12.
It's not enough.
No.
Well, on top of it, it has come out since then that the 12 were specifically chosen, so it wasn't even random. They were chosen because they already had autism. The parents already thought they were vaccine injured. Brian Deere has done a really good job at looking at Wakefield's study. And the thing is, all the studies after Wakefield all fall on that line, and here's Wakefield all by himself, but yet he's looked at as a god.
Well, here's the thing. Two things. One, yes, GMOs, Miss Ashley, GMOs are a good thing so long as we use them for good purposes. For instance, making foods that have more nutrition in them, making foods that are resistant to pests or resistant to pesticides. See, what people don't like about GMOs is that they make people money. There's a company called Monsanto which gets demonized constantly.
Mm-hmm.
There are many other companies too that don't. It's kind of like everyone blames McDonald's for the obesity epidemic, and Burger King's like, I'm glad they don't talk about us. Monsanto's the same way with other genetic engineering companies, but Monsanto makes a lot of money with their Roundup Ready corn. They have this chemical called glyphosate. I can't remember now. It's Roundup, that you spray on your weeds, and some plants are resistant to it. So what they did, this is how this genetic engineering is done. This is how GMOs are made. They found a plant that contained a gene in its DNA that made it resistant to this pesticide. It didn't care about it. It gave no fucks about it. They said, well, we'll take that gene from that plant and we'll put it in our corn. And what they did is they found a bacteria, a virus that normally infects corn and changes its DNA to make it a place where the virus wants to live. But instead, they take the virus's DNA out and they put the DNA from the plant that made it resistant to Roundup and put it in the virus and then put it in the corn. The corn gets that little bit of DNA, and then they breed it and make more of it, and now they have a corn that's resistant to Roundup that won't die when you spray it with Roundup. There's nothing in that that's unnatural or man-made. We didn't make new gene sequences. We just took one from one plant and put it in another. And what's great about that is
cook that's going to kill any type of pesticides that was on it in the first place. That's not going to harm you, right?
right, exactly. Yeah, it's not going to harm you at all. It just makes it resistant to it because unlike, say, breeding things, we don't have any random chance where we might have another gene mutate.
Right.
We change the exact gene we want to change and only that gene. So it's much more precise.
Right.
So
plants the only thing that they use GMOs for, or is that like where you get the, where people are like, no, I want eggs from a farm-fed chicken.
Yeah, right now, the only GMOs around are plants.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible we could do genetically modified pigs or chickens or something like that. But right now, as far as I know, they've never done that. They've bred them. They've bred some interesting things. They've bred chickens with breasts so big that they can barely walk, But
that's fucking crazy.
But I don't think they've actually genetically engineered any. I'm not certain of that. Don't take that as gospel. But I don't believe that they have any genetically engineered animals on the market right now because people would flip their shit, Well,
that's what I'm getting at. I've heard people talk about, what's the difference between the GMO and plants and people flipping out over a chicken being injected with chemicals or being, I don't even know the proper wording to use.
Well, they some people say I don't want my chicken to have hormones injected into it. I want hormone free. And you'll see that on the front, hormone free. You're not allowed to inject chickens with hormones in this country. No one injects chickens with hormones in this country. It's a fake thing. It's a fake thing to scare people into buying your overpriced chicken.
If you had,
is that the reason why we ship chicken not from? Is that the reason why we accept chicken from overseas all the time?
I don't think so.
If you had a chicken that actually literally had no hormones, it wouldn't be a fucking chicken because it needs hormones to fucking grow.
Yeah.
Like that's natural. What they're saying is, of course, added hormones, but still, I mean, to make the hormone free. Well, no, it's not fucking hormone free. Otherwise, it would be an egg, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, actually, nothing is hormone free. If you eat meat, it's full of hormones.
Yes.
Yes.
Period.
About the whole, I want eggs from a farm-fed chicken. How do you know that bastard was fed on a fucking farm?
Yeah, free range. They're let out of their cage for 5 seconds a day. Yeah, it's just. I mean, I'm not joking either. I understand wanting to reduce animal cruelty in your food, but these are all just ways to sell you things that cost too much.
Exactly.
If I see free range, I go to the other side and buy the other eggs because they're cheaper.
Okay, there might be a genetically engineered salmon. Aqua Advantage salmon.
Does that mean they stream back?
A genetically engineered Atlantic salmon. I don't know what it's engineered to do. Safe to eat and
like fins and shit.
Yeah.
As I can say, he gets upstream really, really well.
I'm just waiting for them to just engineer a chicken with like extra wings, so we can just have like.
Yeah, it's got like 3 wings on each side. It's like extra wing chickens.
Okay, it's got a growth hormone regulating gene from another fish as a promoter. They grow big and strong real quick. Is what they are.
So it does get upstream faster. Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole free range chicken, that literally means that they're out roaming and they're not caged.
Right.
And people will actually, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I don't give a fuck where the chicken was at, as long as it tastes good.
Well, this is really more for people who are trying to stop animal cruelty, right? They don't want to eat meat that's been treated cruelly, like they won't eat veal, and they want their chicken to have had a life, because they don't want to eat a sad chicken. And they're.
Motherfucker was sad. Did you ask him?
Yeah, I don't want to wade into these waters. I really don't. Because I don't know any of the science. Some people think that happy animals are healthier to eat. I don't know.
You know what? Happier children are healthier to eat too.
This aqua advantage. Oh, yeah, little baby sashimi.
Yeah, make sure your baby is fresh, free range, and happy.
Yeah, you don't want any of those caged babies. They're just not as good. You gotta take one. That's why we don't raise babies. We have to go like to the park and wait for a mother with a stroller and run in and grab it and run off.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones.
And you know it's going to be happy because it was out in the park, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So a happy chicken makes for a better meal. Okay, so when I go to the grocery store, I'm going to walk up to this dead chicken that's frozen, and I'm going to ask it, are you a happy chicken or are you a sad chicken?
Well, you'll know because if it's free range, it's happy, right?
First off, if the damn frozen-ass chicken answers me, we got bigger problems.
That is some genetic engineering there.
If these farmers were smart, they would invest in a shit ton of smiley face stickers and just slap one of those on, or a stamp even. Get like a happy face stamp and stamp those fuckers on the way out so everybody knows it was a fucking happy chicken and it's good to go.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying earlier, though.
Stamped happy and ready to be eaten.
I could see lingerie with that on it, actually. But that's for 2 weeks. We'll come back to that in a couple of weeks.
What I was saying, though, is that the joke I made about, they're let out of their cage for 5 seconds a day. Yeah, some of these free-range eggs and free-range chickens, they're free-range only by just the smallest amount of free that you can qualify to put that on your label.
They let them free from the coop to the truck that's taking them to get axed, right?
Right, exactly. Possibly so.
We were talking about animal cruelty, and Brent brought up something. Now, I know Deborah follows Muslim faith, loves it so much. But she said that halal is a form of animal cruelty. It's a way that the Muslims slaughter their animals.
Yep, it's how you have to cut their neck and let them bleed out.
What?
Instead of killing them, instead of hitting them in the head and killing them instantly, or shooting them or whatever, or using one of those things in Texas Chainsaw Massacre that just puts a hole in their head. Instead, you got to cut their jugular and let them bleed out while they're still conscious. That's what God wants you to do.
Yeah, and kosher's the same, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
I was wrong, by the way. I have to correct myself real quick.
Okay.
They don't use viruses for genetically engineering plants. They use bacteria.
Okay.
It's a little more complicated. They have something called a plasmid. Basically, they use a bacteria to infect a cell, and the bacteria can give the plant some of its DNA. But instead of giving the plant its DNA, it gives the plant the DNA that we want it to give it instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
All right.
Bailey wants to know if it would be morally better to only eat suicidal chickens rather than the happy one.
Yes. Well, in the restaurant at the end of the universe. At the restaurant at the end of the universe, there is a creature that wants you to eat it. It's been genetically engineered to take away the moral.
Yes. And I'm sorry that wasn't me.
Problems.
That was Chris Sampson. My wrong, Chris.
I see. This particular creature will come to your table and recommend what part of its body you should eat.
Yes, I remember reading that.
Yes. Which is disturbing.
And Trippin, Trippin said China has a chicken that was bred just for the size of their legs and feet being so big. So,
right.
They should.
I haven't eaten that chicken.
But Chinese people love chicken feet. That's a delicacy over there.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Now, the Aqua Advantage salmon, basically the gene that they took from a different kind of salmon, lets it grow year round instead of only during spring and summer.
Okay.
So it ends up getting bigger, quicker.
So it just has to fight the waters longer too.
Right. Probably, but that's allowed. That's a genetically modified animal that we're allowed to have and eat in this country. I don't see a problem with that. It took a gene from one salmon and put it in another salmon. That doesn't sound very dangerous to me.
Wouldn't that be kind of like mixing your brother with your sister?
A little bit. More like mixing your cuts. Well, it'd be more like mixing, I don't know, a chimpanzee with a human.
Yeah.
Well, we all came from monkeys, so.
Yeah, that's right.
And why are there still monkeys? No, that's another show.
Yes. If I came from my grandparents, why don't grandparents still exist?
Exactly.
If my ancestors came from Europe, why are there still Europeans?
Yeah, that just makes no logic. So I have a question about woo.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Hit me.
So I've been having a conversation with Corinne. Yes, I'm calling your butt out. I can cuss. Holy shit.
We're allowed to cuss on this show?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, fuck. Okay, good. Oh.
So and I get what she's saying, but I'd like to hear your take on it.
All right.
So I have what I call my gut instinct. I've always gone with my gut instinct. Okay.
All right.
If I go against my gut instinct, I'm always wrong. But if I go with what my gut tells me, it always comes out. Everything happens. It's like.
Are you sure of that 100%?
Well, I've tested it. Yeah.
I mean, it works most of the time, right? But can you be sure that it works all the time?
No, I can't be. No, for certain, no.
No. All right, go ahead.
But that's my question. What is that feeling that you have? Like, okay, you know something's wrong, then you find out something was wrong, and then that feeling goes away? Or
Right. This is not a spiritual thing or energy. This is actually your brain. You have a subconscious brain. And your conscious brain is dealing with all this stuff that you're taking in with your eyes and your ears and all this. And it can only process it at a certain speed.
Right.
And so you can only take so much into your conscious thinking brain so quickly. But all this sensory information is going into your unconscious brain where it's being processed a lot quicker because it doesn't have to be turned into vivid images and access your speech center and all that. And so your unconscious brain, through experience, can learn to detect things that your conscious brain doesn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
Like body language, for instance.
Right.
So when you're in a situation and you see shit going down that maybe you consciously don't see, but your unconscious is like, that person's posture's weird, that person's standing strange, that person, and this reminds me of these other times when shit went down, and suddenly you get a feeling, oh shit, some shit's going down.
Right.
Consciously, maybe you don't know why, but your instincts are like, we need to get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
For example. So it's actually a version of learning and thinking that's going on unconsciously.
Okay.
So it's still your brain, and it's based on your experience. And when you get outside of your experience, sometimes it can be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you can have a first impression of a person. That's another instinctual thing. A first impression, you think, this guy's a dick, right? Because he reminds you of other people that have been dicks in the past. Because your subconscious has picked up on some things that makes the bells ring. But then you get to know the person and find out, I was kind of wrong. This person's kind of okay. They were just having a bad day.
Right.
Right? So it could be wrong. But it would be unwise for a person to ignore your instincts.
Right.
Your instincts evolved to protect you.
Okay.
That's what they're there for. They did not evolve to show you the truth. Yeah.
Right.
So you're not psychic, Ashley.
Right. For instance,
I was scared people were going to ask me for lottery numbers.
You're using your instincts, which are based upon your subconscious, which is based upon your subconscious experience through your life.
Mm-hmm.
You've experienced things, your subconscious is taking that stuff in, and it's processing all the sensory information behind the scenes that your conscious mind is much slower at processing. So it's taking all this shit in, and sometimes it takes stuff in and it starts bells ringing. It starts setting off your limbic system, which is your part of your body that feels emotions. Because it knows, hey, last time this shit happened, bad shit happened. It's kind of like predicting the weather.
Right.
Like my knee aches, it's going to rain.
Well, even so, it's like every time that these conditions have happened like this, it's rained. Mm-hmm. So we're going to say it's going to rain on the weather.
Right.
Chances are it will. Once in a while, they'll get it wrong, though, because shit happens.
Right.
And we're always wrong sometimes. Unfortunately, when it comes to our intuition, we often take note of the times that we're correct, but we often forget the times that we're incorrect.
Right.
We count the hits and forget the misses. That's called confirmation bias, and every single human being on the planet falls for it.
Okay.
It's just a bias we have in our brain.
Right.
We have to watch out for. That's why in science we write shit down.
Makes sense.
We try to get away from confirmation bias. Science is a method to try to get away from that.
Gotcha.
And if we scientifically tested your intuition, I would guarantee that we'd find that it's better than chance, that you do that your intuition is often right, but that once in a while it's wrong. But like I said, it evolved to keep you safe. It did not evolve to tell you the truth. So, for instance, whenever you're in the woods and you hear leaves rustling and it sounds like something's coming, your limbic system goes, oh shit, there's something coming, let's get the hell out of here. That evolved to keep you safe.
Right.
Now, it doesn't matter if 9 times out of 10 it's nothing. It doesn't matter, because that 1 time out of 10 it's a freaking panther about to eat your face.
Yeah, and it's just like, for example, I'll have a feeling like there's something wrong with my kid, and then later on I'll get home and I'll find out that maybe he fell and he skinned his elbow, or maybe he fell off a bike, or, maybe he had a bad day at school, and then that feeling goes away. Now, I don't know.
Oh, that's a little different. Yeah.
That's Mama's intuition.
Well, I'm thinking that might be an example of confirmation bias. You probably don't remember the times you were wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, if you ask your kid, I got a feeling something bad happened today. Pretty much every day I've ever been on this planet, if someone asks me something bad happened, I can think of something bad that happened.
Right.
If I think about it long enough.
True, yeah. He might think, falling and scraping his knee was, he forgot about it 5 minutes later, but then you were like, hey, what happened today? Did anything funny happen? Oh, well, I guess I did fall and scrape my knee. But
You asked me, did anything bad happen to me today? I'm like, well, I had a pretty good day, except, I spilled some chemical on me today. I got my shirt kind of dirty. Well, yeah, big deal. That's a common occurrence. But if I look for something bad, I'll find something bad.
Right. Before Bobby and I became atheists, actually, I was still a believer in Christianity, and he was, didn't quite know he was into Buddhism at the time, but
Right.
him and I would have this, I don't know, connection or what you would call it, but it's like he would know if something was wrong with me. He'd text me and go, "What's wrong?"
Huh. And this was before, not having seen you or talked to you or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's like he would be at work and then he would just text me and go, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" And I'll pick up the phone and I'm like, "How did you do that? How did you know that?" It's like he senses it, and I know that there's no such real thing of that, but is it possible?
It could have been a subtle change in the way that you normally act, even as an online presence or texting or whatever, that was just enough to make him say, hey, that's not quite normal. I should check on that.
Yeah, there's always signals. Like I said, you're taking in, your subconscious is taking in all these signals that you might not even be aware of consciously, and then they cause you to feel feelings.
Right.
But I don't know about that. I mean, unfortunately, this is anecdotal. Right.
Well, it's kind of like with the remember the show The Mentalist?
Yes.
I think there are subtle cues, even in the way you text, even in the way you write something online, like in a PM.
Right.
You become attuned when you're, quote, in love. You become attuned to that. So I might normally, like, if I'm in one mood, I might normally use one word more than I use another. And I think that kind of falls into, I could just tell something was wrong by how you responded.
And
I think it's more subconscious than anything.
And whenever you love someone, whether it's your children or your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever, whenever you love someone and you care deeply for them, you become more, shall I say, hyper vigilant
Yeah.
when it comes to their reactions and reading their body language and reading all that stuff. So you start picking up cues even more from them than you would from, say, just somebody you ran into.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
That makes sense.
but that's
Dub's
good,
very
though.
good at picking up my cues lately.
Yeah,
That's
well.
wonderful, though. That sounds like Bobby really, really loves you.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You're a straw gas.
You still got to get married. I'm sorry.
Damn it. I thought I was going to get out of that one.
I got a question before, because I know you got to go soon, Steven. What would you say right now is the most wackadoo, ridiculous woo shit that's come across your radar recently?
Oh man, so much stuff.
You have a favorite, I guess.
I'm trying to think. What's that?
Washing your laundry in urine.
Anything to do with urine.
Aged
Yes.
urine of my 7-year-old child.
Ew!
Wait, what? What?
And the laundry comes out fresh and clean smelling.
So gross.
What?
So gross.
Oh, you guys missed that post.
Man, who the fuck washed your clothes in urine?
Someone.
Ew, you're. Oh.
I'll let
Well, you know-
Steven answer, and then I'll fill in that question after. I'm sorry, it just popped into my head, but
Well, if you want to cure your kid of, the diseases they're going to catch because they're not vaccinated, you can always put a few drops of their own urine under their tongue.
yes, that's another one. Yeah.
Because, fuck if I know.
Hey, question. Next time you get sick, I'm going to put some of my urine up under your tongue.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I hope he doesn't
I'll pass.
bother with that one.
Oh God. Well, I don't know where they get these ideas. I guess it's natural.
Yeah,
All this woo is related to religion.
Yes.
If you get down to it, like all the stuff we're talking about, Kent Hovind and his anti-vax, I started looking through all of his references and stuff, and it's just everything is God this and Jesus that. It's all based upon this religious idea of purity versus being contaminated versus being impure, and that God's creation is pure and that man's meddling is impure, which is a load of horse shit. There's nothing.
Well, look at MMS and Jim Humble, Genesis 2 Church.
There is not a goddamn thing on this planet that ain't natural in some respect. I'm
Right,
sorry.
exactly. And there's plenty of things out of nature that are horrible and disgusting and will kill you. What they don't seem to understand is that cancer, AIDS, and getting eaten by a mountain lion are all natural.
Yeah.
Completely organic. I don't want any of that. Thank you very much.
Well, no, didn't you know that in 1978 the World Health Organization created AIDS in a laboratory in Africa and infected in an effort to depopulate the African continent?
By putting it in the polio vaccine, right?
No, I heard that.
Yeah.
Yes, that polio vaccine and other ones. Yeah.
Conspiracy.
Then it jumped to the rhesus monkeys, and some guy was bitten by the rhesus monkey and was considered the patient zero, who is now not patient zero, by the way. They discovered that recently. The connected dots is ridiculous.
Yes, the AIDS virus, actually, the chances are jumped into the human population from an ape population because of certain Africans that were killing the apes for food and got exposed to their blood during the slaughter. In fact, it's the AIDS virus in various forms has crossed into the human population, I think 3 times, but I think it was the 3rd time that was the charm. And it mutated just
and that
in the
was
right
back
way.
in 1932.
1930, exactly. But and so AIDS is completely natural. It comes from good natural monkeys. They weren't even genetically engineered.
Because if you follow that line of reasoning, then the entire continent of Australia must have been man-made to some degree, because everything over there wants to kill you.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, penguins are man-made.
Oh yes.
Like the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
Anyway. Because the penguins are man-made because they weren't on the ark.
Yeah. Oh, right.
It's in the Bible. Yeah.
And what's so sad, and I think I've commented to you about this, Steve, in various posts, is that they'll throw up one meme that has 2 sentences, but it takes us 10,000 words or more to try to debunk it because it
Oh yeah.
grabs hold. And it's just like Daryl Ray says in God Virus, that's what it is. It's just like a God virus. I mean, if you look at like the whole MMS bullshit, he started the MMS to protect it, this bunch of gobbledygook science, to make it a sacrament of the Genesis 2 church. And now somebody like Carrie Rivera, although she's kind of jump shipped on the MMS, her book, Curing Autism, you have people feeding their children, their autistic children, MMS enemas and drinking basically a bleaching agent.
Yeah, that's that. When you were asking me about the woo that I was going to, or the snake oil that's really got on my radar, is the MMS, Miracle Mineral Solution.
Yep.
Which has been around for a little while, like you say, and it really is, like you say, also connected with religion, Christianity. It's really weird.
Well, actually, the Genesis 2 church, Jim Humble, who is the founder of it and who, quote, discovered MMS, is actually a former Scientologist.
Okay.
Under the auspices of L. Ron Hubbard, and I'm actually working on a piece, and it's taken me quite a while. Basically, the pathogens of Carrie Rivera, why she feeds chlorine dioxide to children, is that if you look into it, the pathogens equal the thetans.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
And the thetans have to be defeated if you know anything about Scientology. And one thing people don't realize is that Rivera is, or was, I don't know how you want to term it, a bishop in the Genesis 2 church.
So when I saw Genesis 2, I assumed Christianity, and it's actually related to Scientology.
Yeah, it's more Scientology. It's Scientology leading with Christian woo thrown in for good measure, but the MMS protocol is considered a sacrament of the church.
Good God.
Yes, they do that to protect it because it is a religion.
Well, let me explain something to people who don't know what we're talking about. First of all, yes, they put the Christian stuff in because Christian shit sells in America. So you put a little Jesus on your snake oil, and automatically your sales will go up. But this guy claims to have invented this panacea for everything that ails you, this inventor, and of course, some dude says it'll cure me, so I'm going to shove it up my ass because some dude said it would work. I mean, isn't that good enough?
Uh-huh.
It's a chemical called sodium chloride, which is related to bleach. It's actually used as a bleach in some industries. The chemistry of it is neither here nor there. Let's just say it's caustic and nasty. And they're taking it and sticking it and giving enemas of it to autistic children to cure them of their autism, because autism is caused by parasites that live in their bowels, which which are made of, well, I guess you would say thetans. And when the parasites come out, they actually you see them come out of the poor kid's anus. This makes me so mad and so disgusted I want to punch somebody.
Yeah,
it's not parasites.
Go to No More Bleach if you want to see some really
graphic.
Well, it's not graphic intentionally, but it shows the mindset. I did a segment on MMS, and I'm working on another one that delves into more of the religious bullshit behind it. But Jim Humble actually, in his defense, doesn't espouse it primarily for autism. That was Carrie Rivera. She's now jumped ship and gone to the GCMAF, or the new thing, the one that supposedly Bradstreet was murdered over, along with a bunch of other doctors, because, you know, they hit the panacea.
Right.
But yeah, Vice did a really nice article too on MMS. That's actually the article that got me going on it.
Well, what really is disturbing about it is that these parasites that are coming out of the kids' butts are not parasites. They're the intestinal lining that's being slothed off because of a corrosive chemical being put up their butt. And when you want to talk about these are people that probably normally are like, I avoid chemicals, man. I won't eat chemicals. And they're going to put a chemical, it's not a mineral. It's a synthetic chemical. It's a nasty one, and they're spraying it up their kids' butts. And to me, it's just how stupid can you be?
But they're going to be anti-vax because those chemicals in the vaccination made my kid autistic in the first place. So, you know, fake chemical up their ass and pretend that that's going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's like I have friends that are autistic, and you'll see this quite a bit, especially in regards to MNMS. It's like, so you would rather kill your child because he's quote damaged and try to cure autism when autism is quote natural. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's not stasis. Now some are deeper into the spectrum than others, but like my nephew falls on the ASD scale, and he is fully functioning now 19-year-old kid who holds down a job and wants to get his own place. I told him to get at least $6,000 together before he does that. You know, he's perfectly, for lack of a better word, normal. It's like, so you'd rather kill your child, not vaccinate your child, kill him slowly from measles or mumps or rubella, because you don't want a damaged goods. It's like the total disregard for the life that has been formed. Yeah. It's just it's amazing.
And the idea that there's something,
wrong,
a disease that's wrong with them. Well, no, it's just who they are, and that you just that's it.
Different. They're different. They process things a bit differently. They live a little bit differently. So fucking what,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, so that was one, and another one I guess is another snake oil that I think is ridiculous. Well, anything to do with energy. The misuse of the word energy, whether it's massaging your aura or using crystals because they contain energies, and scientists have studied these things. We understand them. For instance, like crystals, I know they're pretty and amazing, and that some Native American tribes used to use them in healing ceremonies, but scientists know how to grow crystals now. We know how they're grown, why they are. You can take entire courses in chemistry all about the symmetry of the molecular structure of the base molecule and how that causes the crystal to grow in the shape that it does. This is known, which makes me wonder: could we corner the market in synthetic, fake knockoff crystals for healing? Like, because I'm sure it would be cheaper to grow a really nice looking pink amethyst than it would be to find one. So we could just grow like a bunch of synthetic crystals and claim that they're natural and sell them to crystal healers, just as a business, a side business. I don't know. What's the difference? I'm sure they wouldn't accept them because they're not natural, but what's the difference?
I know of people who claim that they can tell the difference just by feeling them.
Right. Well, I also know of people who think that crystals are alive.
Yes, I know those people too.
Literally alive. Yeah. You couldn't have anything less alive than a rock.
Well,
and
now
they think they're alive.
People have had pet rocks,
Yeah. I had to get rid of mine. It was peeing all over the carpet. But they always evoke the term energy when they're talking about this stuff, and the word energy has meaning in science, and it's the ability. Energy is a property of a system. When they talk about pure energy or energy as if it's a thing, it's like talking about pure wet or pure blue or pure length or pure girth. Oh, sorry about that one. These are just properties of things. They don't exist independent of the thing, if you know what I'm saying. And part of the problem with that is it falls on scientists because we unfortunately called radiation energy back in the day, like light and X-rays and stuff. We called that energy. That's not energy. That's radiation. It has energy as a property of it, but it's not just energy.
Yeah.
So when they talk about energy, they're not talking about any of the energies that we know of. They're talking about some spooky magic that can do things.
Yep.
That's not energy. And in fact, if it were energy, then we would be able to. They say, well, science hasn't detected it yet. Well, by definition, energy is something that does work. If it does work, then it does something that it can move something or cause something to happen, and that could be measured. So if you can't measure it, then it's not energy by definition.
I was guilty back in the ghost hunting days. I used to believe that black tourmaline could absorb negative energy.
Yeah, and what does negative energy mean? What is that?
Uh,
Energy doesn't have a pole.
oh, but that's like the evil, demonic shit, whatever.
Right. Negative energy would be a lack of it. Would be something that sucks energy in. It would. I don't think that can exist in reality. It's like having. It's like having negative mugs. I have -1 mugs, which means I have an anti-mug that if you had a mug would cancel that mug out, right? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
We used to think it was like if somebody has that they have negative intentions or they're like bad for you.
Right, I got you. So it's the equivocation fallacy, because you can have energy like the energy of, like, if you're a comedian or something, you can talk about the energy in the room, right? Whether the people are up and they're laughing or they're not, and you have someone that sort of makes you feel good, and so you say they got good positive energy, they make you feel good, or they have negative energy, they make you feel bad. That's a different definition of the word energy.
Yeah,
that's not energy as in scientific energy that can be transferred from one state to another.
I thought it was the same shit.
Yeah, we do that all the time. We take words with different meanings and try to claim that the two different meanings are the same thing.
Yep.
It doesn't work. Yeah. And like faith.
Faith, yes, that's another good one.
Yeah, it has 5 definitions.
Right, and they're not related to each other.
Nope.
Oh, shit. Well, thank you so much, Professor Stephen. We had a great time.
I've had a great time being here.
And if you've got anything you want to pimp and shout out, please do, and where people can find you.
Well, right now I'm just going to say that we're Rachel and I, along with some other friends, are trying to get the Atheists on Air proper podcast going again. It's going to be cashless, unfortunately. And we're sort of going to try to. It's going to be a little different. We're trying to do some new things with it. We hope to have the first episode of I don't know, Atheists on Air, the Next Generation, up in a couple of weeks. So look for that, unless something goes wrong. I'd hope they'd done it last week, but I was sick, so shit happens.
That's right. Well, that's okay because Rachel got zapped out of power, so.
Right. It all happens. I lost my job. I had to move. I got a new job. I had to move. I'm not doing a podcast during that period of time.
Yeah.
And then I got a new job where I'm trying to just hustle just to get up to speed with. And then I have a trip that I'd planned before I got fired to go on, and then I got sick. And so it's been 6 months since there's been an AOA episode. But Lord willing. And by Lord,
well,
I mean,
we go by that. We're in for some deep shit then.
Yeah, I meant our Lord and Savior, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, of course.
Okay.
Yes, because we will be touched by his noodly appendage once again.
That's correct. Yes, we will. So hopefully we'll be doing that. That's about all I have to pimp right now. But you can find me at my Facebook fan page, Professor Stephen. That's probably the best place to get in touch with me. And that's about all I have to say.
Okay, well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
And Professor Stephen is a wonderful resource when you have a science question. I've picked his brains a few times, and it's nice to have him as a friend on Facebook, but it's even nicer to have him as a guest on our show, so...
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you do.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't necessarily know all the answers, but I know how to find them.
Well, you know how to find them, and if you don't know, you try to find resources to send me to, and that's what's important.
Yes. Oh, and before I go, I will plug a resource. Google has something called Google Scholar.
Yes.
Just type the word scholar into Google, and then Google Scholar, and you can search for scientific papers there.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I like that.
If you're interested in that sort of thing.
Yes.
All right. Well, live long and prosper.
You could go get some sleep, and in the meantime, we're going to play Beth's segment on that refers back to Kent Hovind and his anti-vax rule that we.
All right, a theme for the night. Have a good one.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Okay. So, if everybody can mute up for me, and we'll take it away with Beth's segment.
Did you want to go to Reason Rally 2016 on June 4th and can't afford it? Do you want your group to be a part of the biggest atheist and free thought rally in 2016? Now's your chance. Reason Rally 2016 is looking for groups that want to come to the Reason Rally for a great rate. Reason Rally is working with RallyBus.net, your online crowdsourced event bus sharing, to bring you to the Reason Rally and to take you home. Go to rallybus.net/reason-rally and sign up today. We need bus captains and organizers to set up groups of 40 or more that can meet up in major cities and ride share. Go to rallybus.net/reason-rally to set yours up today.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Havoc and Chaos Live. Weekly look at some of the batshittery we call news and the pals, pundits, and other up-to-wild people, myself included, claim to know what is really going on in our world. I am an atheist, a lesbian, and I have bipolar disorder, among other things. Therefore, hate of any kind is not welcome in my world. I am opinionated, and my impulse control went out the window months ago, so I say what I feel. In other words, stupid smart people piss me the fuck off. Be forewarned, I'm highly excitable, and if you're easily offended by four-letter words or longer, you may want to go and listen to something else. Before we begin, I'd like to say this. You can consider it a disclaimer of sorts, but also an explanation of why I do what I do. I am a layperson. I am not an expert. Never claimed to be. But there are subjects I spend more time learning about, for example, homosexuality in regards to the Bible, but I never consider myself an expert, even after 25 years of learning about the subject. I have an opinion, and hopefully it's an informative one. I consider vaccines and GMOs very good, and I'm not afraid to share that opinion, or the process I took to get to my reasoning point, hence the numerous citations. I do this for two reasons. To avoid a charge of plagiarism, a point that was drilled into me since high school, and the second reason is to provide those of you that actually read my shit a chance to read and hopefully learn from those that are smarter than I. So when I see information that runs counter to the consensus of science, I cringe. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I throw things. But it really fucks me off. So that's where today's episode falls. I have spent time reading Toko's material, and I will forewarn you, I slaughtered the poor woman's name. And you know what? There's not a nary of credible citation available. Those articles with citation, it's the bare minimum of information. This bothers me, and it's something I try to combat in my own special way. So the other day, Kent the Denoman Hovind released a video entitled Dr. Kent Hovind Intro to Mary Toko's Info on the Dangers of Vaccinations. Hovind, in my opinion, has basically officially added anti-vax to his repertoire. He has always been suspect in my mind due to his sovereign citizen anti-government mindset, but this video pretty much puts him over the edge. Within the first 2.5 minutes, Hovind demonstrates his imbecilic understanding of vaccines and immunology, and do remember that he was a high school biology teacher, while Toko hits on two anti-vaccination tropes I want to discuss. The first being the Cutter incident, and the second being the alleged renaming of polio as non-viral meningitis and or bacterial meningitis as a reaction to the polio vaccine. So first we'll take a look at the Cutter incident. At first glance, this narrative looks pretty bad if one accepts Toko's subtly implied version, as presented to Hovind. Although that's really not what I found. Quote, in April 1955, more than 200,000 children in 5 western and midwestern U.S. states received a polio vaccine in which the process of inactivating the live virus proved to be defective. Within days, there were reports of paralysis, and within a month, the first mass vaccination program against polio had to be abandoned. Subsequent investigations revealed that the vaccine, manufactured by a California-based family firm of Cutter Laboratories, had caused 40,000 cases of polio, leaving 200 children with varying degrees of paralysis and killing 10. End of quote. Rightly so, the Cutter incident has been called one of the worst pharmaceutical disasters in U.S. history. Delving into court records and government reports and early accounts of the tragedy, Dr. Paul Offit, in his recent book, found that the vaccine was contaminated by live poliovirus. It withstood the formaldehyde treatment that was designed to kill it. And the virus did survive by clinging to bits of cellular material that were not adequately filtered in Cutter's manufacturing process. It's what Offit called a scale-up problem. When initial batches of the vaccines were made in Johann Salk's laboratory, a very thick asbestos filter was used, and that efficiently separated the virus from the cellular debris. When Cutter attempted to produce the millions of doses required of the vaccine, it used a glass filter that was faster, but it let some of the virus-laden debris slip through. It was determined that 2 of the 8 batches of Cutter vaccine released to market, which was enough for 120,000 doses, were found to be subsequently contaminated with the live virus. And this was responsible for the statistics that I mentioned above. Based on just that real quick research, if you want to call it that, one finds that within 2 to 3 minutes, Toko really has imbibed in her first set of hyperbole. What I found, as I mentioned above, there were between 200,000 to 400,000, depending on statistics, infected. 70,000 developed the muscle weakness. Of the 164 people who developed paralysis in response to the vaccine, 10 died. Though this is very, very tragic, and I'm not making light of it, the global end to polio transmission would have been inconceivable without the vaccine. Just think of the total number vaccinated in the U.S. alone. It's also important to remember that in the 1950s, protecting the public from polio was a national project. It was a national campaign, literally financed by the March Dimes, that made it as such. Every effort was made to see that the vaccine would be widely available to all children, and that polio would be wiped out. In the U.S., the last case of naturally occurring polio happened in 1979, so that end was eventually reached. I'm not going to get into the politics or the minutiae of the development of the vaccine, or the Godstanker vs. Cutter case, or its aftermath, but I will add this in regards to Offit's book regarding the Godstanker case. Quote, "The relationship between science and the law has been complicated and often counterproductive." End of quote. The Cutter incident has had a huge impact on vaccine production. It's resulted in much higher production standards, and only 4 manufacturers survive. But there's zero evidence of the truth being hidden. It was slow, yes, but it was not hidden from the public. Mistakes were made. There is no denying it. The tragedy occurred, but one needs to bear in mind that the panic that polio caused. Over 40 million children at the time were slated to be immunized. To imply other motives is disingenuous at best. Quote, "Although it was not the most dreadful disease of its day, paralysis was rare and death very rare. It played upon the public imagination as a despoiler of youth and of the summertime when it was most prevalent. Images here of very small children walking with leg braces and canes are still particularly potent." Although I seem to be glossing over the Cutter incident, it doesn't lessen its overall impression. The impact of the first few minutes of Hovum's video, what Tucko suggests in her statement, left a mark. So much so that I've read a considerable amount concerning the development of said polio vaccine, the politics behind it, and other small details. I've actually gone so far as to order Paul Offit's book concerning the Cutter incident. But I don't get what she leaves us with, just in that short, brief span, where she basically is saying or implying that you cannot trust the power elite, i.e. the government, academia, the doctors, or scientist, but her 30-plus years at Google University, that's impeccable. And just a FYI here, I have been pondering Hogan's agenda as to this segment and recently learned that April is the 61st anniversary of the announcement by Johann Salk that the polio vaccine was safe and effective. Coincidence? I don't know. Hogan's mind works in very unusual ways. I was hoping to hit both points tonight in regard to Toko's anti-vaxxer stance. Regretfully, my voice has had other ideas, and we really have already hit the 10-minute mark. Our guest tonight is too much fun to continue, so there will be a part 2 next week. I will leave you with a bit of foreshadowing, though. Hidden within Toko's concern about the polio vaccine are a whole boatload of unsubstantiated claims. The most egregious to me is that vaccinations have no role in the eradication of disease. In her simplistic denial of germ theory, she states that polio was renamed as non-viral meningitis and or bacterial meningitis as a reaction to the polio vaccine. Both her concerns are false. I hope to show why. What it really boils down to in a simplistic way, if the names, polio is not the only ailment included in this list, have been changed, why don't we see a corresponding increase in other ailments? You hear this a lot with autism. That it spiked in the 80s. Most people today would not be considered autistic back in the 80s. Most people in the 80s would be diagnosed as something else. What changed, or one issue that changed, was the diagnostic criteria. It was tightened up, definitionally wise, but broadened to include a bigger spectrum. That's why we hear the term autism spectrum disorder. It's not that there's more cases of autism, more people are being included in that diagnosis. If you have 10 minutes to spare, and I hope you do, give a listen to this garbage that both Holt and Douglas feed. Although I'm fairly certain I'm talking to the choir, it should give you a finer understanding of why combating the woo is so important, and why people like our guest, Professor Stephen, are so important. It's the little things that matter. One person's mind is changed by what Professor Stephen does, what I attempt to do in my own little way, and I've done my job. Now, back to the show and Professor Stephen Ballou.
Alrighty. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was funny how it actually fell in with Stephen being our guest.
Absolutely. Well, as he said, he's got a new job and he's got to get up in the morning, so that's why he had to beg off a little early. But do tell us all about this washing clothes and urine. I will say, Trippin said that Mythbusters did a show on what pirates used to wash their clothes. Supposedly the ammonia, I'm guessing in the urine, helped to get stains and blood out. Forget what the results were, though.
Well, the use of urea, which is a component of urine, is used in the tanning industry. So there is some science behind it, but what it came down to is I visit a lot of the science websites, primarily for resources, primarily just to shake my head, and I love watching people like the Credible Hulk and his cousin and Cybabe and all them just totally destroy the woo. I mean, what people like they do and what Stephen does and Rachel amazes me. And I try to do my small part in passing along what they say. But there was in one of the groups that I visit, someone had posted, and I cross-posted this on my wall. A woman ran out of laundry detergent, so used her daughter's, I think it was a 7-year-old, aged urine. So in other words, she's storing this stuff to wash her clothes.
That's what I Why would you have it laying around?
Yeah.
That it would...
Well, you kind of hit it. Ashley hit on it by sticking it under their tongue. It's called urine therapy. And now some people may remember back in the AOA days when Stephen did a segment on fecal transplant. Now there is science behind the fecal transplant. It is being actively studied. They have had some good results for people whose digestive biome has been affected. If you're not aware, we have about 10 million gut bacteria that aids in digestion in our intestines and our colon. And when they get screwed up, it can cause issues like IBS and stuff like that. In fact, when I first had my stroke, I was having digestive troubles because only half my system was working properly. And the first thing they jumped on was this whole gluten intolerance bullshit. And I'm like, I've been eating gluten my whole life. I didn't just develop the, a whole other side woo, which I actually will be hitting. But so they've combined the science of the whole fecal transplant, thinking that literally drinking your own urine is healthy because it's, quote, natural. And not long after that, there was another one where someone actually was giving it as a medication. I'd have to look up the post, but it's a couple days ago, so it's buried. But yeah, I think that's probably going to be my next segment somewhere down the road, is on this whole urine therapy thing. And it all comes down to the natural fallacy.
Well, I can come into it with a little bit of a history lesson, though, because you did mention it being used in the tanning industry. That's all funny there. And so think about this. They were using urine to tan leather. It was also used in the dye industry and again for the ammonia properties. So yes, historically it was used, but it was also processed. It wasn't like, people were just pissing on things, But that is where the term "don't have a pot to piss in" comes from, because in those days you could actually sell your urine for money. And so if you had a pot to piss in, you could take your urine and get some money for food. And there also in alleys and that near tanneries, or a fuller, it would be like a dyeing place. There would be like containers where if you're coming home drunk from the bar and you want to piss in the street, they would want you to go piss over here because they'd collect it and use it in their business for free.
Yeah.
Then they wouldn't have to pay for it.
I mean, there's a history of its use, like you said. I mean, I believe one of our listeners had posted about how even in Roman times they collected, and like you said, pot to piss in, that's where that term actually comes on. But to use it to do your laundry, no.
Yeah, like urine that's been moldering somewhere, and
well, just to give you, and not to be disgustingly gross, but because I am diabetic, and Deb, you can probably relate to this, you notice that sometimes I'll say frothy for a lack of a better word, and what it is our body does not regulate our sugar properly, so we dump proteins, or as they call it in the business, ketones. And some people, when you start doing that, that means your kidneys aren't functioning. So you could have someone doing this and actually putting stuff in the laundry or whatever. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
It's not that it's disgusting, because I know people who have drank their own for survival. They had no choice, or they felt they had no choice because they were lost at sea or something. But it's just like, I mean, the stupidity of some of the woo out there is just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, some of the stuff that I've read in the last 2 weeks, and I go in spurts because I just get to a point where my brain is just like, are you serious?
I've been, as I say, I have a foam brick that I've used for things that piss me off to that level, and I've been trying to find. I found it at a secondhand store, and I actually owned one back in the '80s, so this is quite dated. I've been looking to find a couple other ones for you guys because I actually find it quite cathartic.
Well,
I was gonna bring it for Ashley last time I was down, and I forgot to bring it on the damn plane.
it's mind-boggling because, like, I follow a lot of the religious bullshit. I mean, it got to the point like 2 weeks ago where I literally have finally, I think I finally have given up because, I mean, like, I look at the whole bathroom bill bullshit and the whole LGBT issue, and it's just like, I've been doing this for close to 10 years now, as far as posting articles, and I mean, I know, with my post-stroke depression and all that, it just was like, I can't do this anymore. And I haven't even gotten 2 weeks into the science school, and it's like, it was funny because one of my friends shared the Hovind video, and that's only the first 2 minutes of it.
Ugh.
I mean, and it's like, and then Stephen brought up the another one that he's put out, which I haven't seen yet, so I'm gonna have to go look for it. But it's like, this is the kind of stuff that people like Kent Hovind and put out, and people are just follow this guy like there's no tomorrow. You have people that are following Carrie Rivera with her CD protocol and Jim Humble, and you have people following Wakefield like he's a demigod, but yet the scientists who have studied this stuff, the researchers, the immunologists, people like Dr. Paul Offit, I mean, these people have spent years studying this stuff, the science, and like I said, science doesn't lie. It's either true or it's not, and if it's true, it's going to be true whether you believe it or not. But yet we actively have people leading other people astray. I mean, if you go to nomorebleach.com, you'll see it with the MMS. I mean, just the mindset and the woo that people espouse. Biology Babe is another good one. Incredible Hulk does just, I mean, putting the science out there, and it comes down to, well, I don't believe that study.
Yeah.
And it's a point you made. Why would the government, the power elite, lie? I mean, I know vaccines are good.
Yeah.
I've known since I was a child. Why would they lie? What purpose would they have? I mean, what purpose does more money?
Because people in society are not happy if they don't have something to bitch about.
Well, not even bitch, but to blame.
They've got to be persecuted in some fashion, right? Yeah. Like, if somebody's not out to get me, then I don't have any meaning in my life. Like, I don't get that mentality at all. And some of these conspiracy nuts, I've said it before, I don't know how anybody can live being that paranoid. Like, look at fucking Alex Jones. Like, I don't know how much of that shit he's faking, but even if like a quarter of that is he believes, how can you live being so fucking paranoid like that all the time? Like,
well, what blows my mind, and one thing I want to say about the video, I kept saying Johann Salk is Jonas Salk. But regretfully, my brain just didn't want to get that through it. So, and Mary Taco in that video actually has a Christian ministry. That is why she was featured in Hovind's video. But one of the things I have found, and you touched upon it during our conversation, was that it's or Stephen did, I can't remember who, about the religious aspect, and it comes down to the Bible. Well, what the fuck is the Bible? It's not a science book, first of all. Yeah. Never even espouse that idea. I mean, it doesn't say I'm a science book, you follow me, But it's like, it's just so mind-boggling that you have people like Hovind, like Toko, Carrie Rivera. I mean, they're just outright lying when you can go on the internet, go to a library. My library is actually literally right next door on the other side of me. I have sheets on one side. So, but you can go in and look at these books that tell you the exact opposite. And yet we trust science, but we don't trust the scientists.
Yeah.
Just because Joe Blow down the street says not to.
It's like
I mean,
it goes back to, because you know how people who are really religious, they really glom onto that feeling of, ooh, I'm special, I've figured
yes.
out the right God, I figured out the right religion, and Jesus loves me more than you fuckers over there. And it falls into that where, well, I'm smarter than everyone else because I can see through the conspiracy
Yeah.
and I know the truth, and you are all just sheep. And it's quite the opposite, actually.
Well, and it's funny because I was thinking that's part of why I put that quote disclaimer in there. Is like, okay, I know I'm smart. I have no qualms admitting it, but this is how I got to my point. And I want you guys to go and look at the resources I've put. Go and read people like SciBabe or Biology Babe or The Credible Hulk or any of them, and look at their citations. These are reputable citations. Like Toko uses, I mean, like I went to her page now, like most of her articles don't even have citations. So it's basically opinion, which is all I have too, but at least this is where I get my opinion. These people that I get my opinion from can back it up with these scientific studies. These scientific studies have been replicated. The ones that can't be replicated, i.e. Wakefield, for an example, have been thrown out by the wayside and retracted. I mean, the Seralini study is another one for GMOs. We were talking about that. His studies have all been basically thrown out. In fact, all his studies now are being called into question because of, I want to say fraudulent data, but I may be wrong on that. So when a scientist is, quote, wrong, it comes out when other scientists try to repeat his experiments. You go to an anti-vaccine site, you do not see original research. In fact, one bit of original research that came out just this past year was a study funded by one of the anti-vaccine groups, and they were hoping to show that vaccine caused injury, and basically the study said, no, it doesn't. And now they're trying to pull that study apart to prove the study wrong, and it's like it's been replicated 50 million times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, like, all the studies show, like using vaccine as an example, because that's what I focus on mostly, all the studies have showed there's no link between vaccines and autism. There's no link between MMR and autism. There's no link, it's just not there, but they throw it out. And what's funny is that this isn't new. This isn't original. This goes back to Jenner. I mean, since the 1850s with the smallpox vaccination. So they can't even come up with anything original. Gee, where have I heard that before?
Well, ladies, I think it's time to wrap it up for the evening. So, Beth, where can we find you and all of your wonderful science anti-woo stuff?
Easiest way is on Twitter at Dune998, and that connects to my blog, which is Havoc and Chaos, although I haven't been blogging much lately. I'm taking a break again. But everything all connects into Facebook, and that's Beth A. Hambridge, and I welcome more knowledge, so hit me up. And you want to use the Beth A. You use no A, you're going to get my vanilla page.
And Miss Ashley, where can we find you?
You can find me on No Religion Required every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spreaker. I'm known as the Mouth of the South there. I think I'm known as that here too.
Definitely.
But I can be found on all. Now, see, you can't interrupt me with the kitty.
I know, he's bad that way.
You can find me on Facebook at Miss Ashley of NRR, or you can find my crazy screwed up page under Jim Bob Maley. You can. I'm also a twit on Twitter, Miss_Ashley NRR.
Excellent. Who's your guest?
this coming week, I have no idea. I don't ever know who our guests are until I show up.
Okay. Sounds like me. Ooh.
I'm finding out who that is. Who's our guest? Oh, his ass don't even know. He gotta go look it up.
Oh, hell. Well, while he's doing that. Of course, we're here every week, and I'm also appearing on Atheist Apocalypse, which you can find at atheistapocalypse.com. We shall be putting out a new episode next Monday. We're gearing up to start season 3 soon, so that's kind of exciting. And as I had been saying, we are now on iHeartRadio, so you can find Atheist Apocalypse on iHeartRadio. And I usually show up on Holy Crap, the Vlogcast, which is Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. Eastern. And you can find at holycraptv.com, I believe it is. But if you Google Holy Crap, you'll find it. We're the only one. And some of our friends in the Q&A, like Chris Sampson, will be appearing on there as well. So that's always kind of fun. I never know what the hell we're talking about on that show till I show up either. So who the hell is your guest?
Who's your favorite? Sam Smith, John Smith,
Joseph Smith?
Scott Smith.
Who Smith?
Who? What does he do?
See, I've never asked her this before. Now we know why.
Yeah. You know why.
Supervisor for the hotline.
Oh.
The hotline for recovering from religion.
Oh, excellent.
Excellent. Alrighty, well, I think that does it for this week. Next week we'll be talking to author John D. Webster, so that'll be fun times. And then just a reminder, Rachel will be back the following week on May 2nd. So she really apologized. She felt terrible. I'm like, look, God zaps you. What the fuck are you going to do, right? So...
Yeah, that's what happens to us during the summertime. It's a touch and go if we're going to have a signal during the summer.
Yep.
Crazy.
All right, everybody. Well, as always, we will leave you with Dave motherfucking Foda and his humanist creed, and we will see everyone next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.